This is Nourish You, the podcast where we question the traditional model of dieting and nutrition and focus on choice, fun, and health for the whole mind and body. It's all on the table and it all counts. I'm Jana, registered dietitian and your host.
Well, thank you so much, Jana. It's an honor to be here. I'm so excited to chat with you and your community today.
Yeah, thank you. So let's just get into it. I like to kind of hop in and, learn more about you and your story. So share with us, what is your story? Who are you?
Sure. So I guess to simplify things a little bit, I guess I would say that I am a California cattle rancher turned life coach by accident after embarking on my very own health journey. So I grew up in rural California. My family's cattle ranch. They still are very active ranching out here in the middle of nowhere, California. If you're not from California, yes, we do have parts that are very rural like that. And I grew up in the agriculture community. I thought that was where my path was really going to take me. But life had different plans. So, backstory about me, I am someone who has really struggled with food and my weight for my entire life. And at the time when I was working, I moved to Germany for a year after college, and then I moved to Kentucky for a job with the Beef Council. I thought, cattle ranching, I've got this beef background, and this job was really consumer facing communications. And I love communications and sharing agriculture stories. So I was like, man, this is the job for me. And in that role in Kentucky, one of the programs that I was in charge of was actually their nutrition program. So it was my job to stand up in front of, a group of consumers, a group of registered dietitians like yourself, a group of influencers, all sorts of people, and really talk about beef's role in a heart healthy diet and lifestyle. And at the time, I weighed my heaviest. I was 285 pounds, and I felt really conflicted in that role because I felt like I was doing the beef industry a disservice by being an advocate while not exactly looking the part or really walking the talk. And so while I was in Kentucky, I kind of had this rock bottom moment and this realization that it was time for me to really start taking control of my life and my health. And so October 1st, 2018, I decided to start making small changes in my own life. And fast forward, I lost over 100 pounds in 1 year and kind of accidentally became a life coach along the way. I was really open about sharing my journey and really talking about the mindset and the self-love journey that I really think is the main part of any health journey at its core. I started sharing that more on my social media channels, and people started pursuing me and asking me, hey, do you do any coaching? Do you help with this? And so I kind of accidentally became a life coach and really fell in love with the practice. And it's become the most rewarding part of this entire journey. And now I've had an opportunity to use my story to now be the best advocate possible for the beef industry while serving and working with women all across the country and all across the world.
Yeah. So I just think that in so many ways that I find your story amazing, because it really is, so often in these health journeys, we see like the before and the after, but we don't really understand the between. So You mentioned one thing of that rock bottom moment. What was that for you? What did it look like for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, my rock bottom moment, I remember it very vividly. I was working for the Beef Council at the time, and I was getting ready to go on a work trip. We were flying from Lexington, Kentucky to Arizona for a conference. And as I got into the airport, checked through security, I made a pit stop into one of those little, convenience stores in the airport and grabbed a water. And I saw this book that I had heard so many people talking about at the time. And it was Rachel Hollis's book, Girl, Wash Your Face. And so I thought, you know what? I have 4 hours to kill on this plane ride. I'm just going to grab it and it'll entertain me. And so I get on the plane. And at the time, being someone that was my size, I loved traveling, but flying always made me really anxious because I wasn't someone that really fit into most airplane seats. And so I remember getting on the plane. I always did the thing where I scanned the seat next to me, hoping that it was empty, or maybe there was a small child into it, because I hated being that person overflowing, making other people uncomfortable. And I get on the flight and I go to buckle my seatbelt, and it doesn't fit. And full transparency, this was not the first time this had happened to me. I got really good in the past about hiding my seatbelt with a sweatshirt or something so that the airplane stewardess wouldn't know that it wasn't buckled. Not that I recommend that. But this moment, particularly, the airplane stewardess happened to see me fumbling with my seatbelt. And she asked me, "Hey, can I get you a seatbelt extender?" And I said, "Yes, thank you." And at that moment, the only thing that I could do to not burst into tears in front of all of my coworkers and everybody on the plane was just to shove my face into the book that I happened to just buy. And I think that life has a funny way of working sometimes, because I think in so many ways that rock bottom moment and the happenstance that I just purchased that book were really what saved me. Because it's a great book, but I don't necessarily think that Rachel says anything that I hadn't heard before, but it was the message I needed to hear at a time when I was finally ready to receive it. And that book and that 4-hour plane ride was really my wake up call that I had been playing victim in my life for a really long time. I felt like a victim to my circumstances, like a victim to my genetics, like a victim to my job, but I didn't have the time, I didn't have the money, I didn't have the resources. And I blamed everyone and everything around me for why I was at where I was at in my health, in my career, and all of these things. And that book was my wake up call that, okay, I need to start taking ownership of my choices. And if it's my choices that got me here, that it stings a little bit. It's kind of a hard pill to swallow, but at the same time, it was the most freeing moment, because if it's my choices that got me here, then it's my choices that can get me somewhere else. And that's what I needed to hear before I started really taking responsibility for my own life again.
Yeah. What do you feel like you struggled most with as it relates to just food, but just health as a whole? What did that struggle look like for you?
Yeah. So, in my opinion, I think a lot of people that struggle with their weight like I did, it's not that they don't know how. It's not that they don't know how to eat healthy or make good decisions or move their body. I knew how. I had dieted a thousand times before, whether that was always in the healthiest way or not, that's another story. But, I
Right.
knew at its core how to eat healthy, how to eat with balance and moderation, and how to move my body. So that wasn't the piece that was missing. I think that for me, what I really struggled with and what I didn't really discover until I started this again this time was I struggled with my own self worth, and I struggled with my own relationship with myself. And I struggled with processing my emotions in a healthy way. In a big way, was an emotional eater. And ever since I was really, really young, I used food for comfort. Food was my safe space. If I was sad, happy, bored, procrastinating something, food was my go to way to numb out, avoid, or distract. And having used it for so long, it served me in some ways as a coping mechanism, but it really harmed me in so many ways as well. And so throughout this journey, what I really realized was, okay, every time I tried dieting before, it was always from this place of self-hate or judgment or thinking that my body was not acceptable. And it was always this desperation of, I need to change who I am and what this looks like. And this last time I realized I need to love myself as I am, just right now, how I look, before I can really start doing this in a way that's healthy. I need to learn how to accept and love myself here in this moment at 285 pounds. Because if I can't love myself here, then I can't show up and care for myself from a place of love. And I'm not going to love myself when I lose the weight either. And so I think for me, and I think for a lot of people, the first step isn't necessarily always nutrition or exercise. I think that that's what we're trained to believe. What's the next diet? What's the next program? But I think for a lot of us, the first step is really, okay, how do I think about myself? How can I be able to look in the mirror and find more love and acceptance for myself as I am? Because it's from that place that I think that we can really make these small but really impactful life changes that are actually going to last the long haul, instead of being a temporary fix of something that's really not just a weight problem. It's an internal problem.
Right, right. Always share grace and grit, because we have to give ourselves a little bit more grace, because this process takes a lot of grit. But
Yeah.
oftentimes people will say, well, if I give myself grace in this moment, that I'm just, basically pacifying it. I'm giving myself a pass to not do it again. Why do you feel like by stepping into the realm of, first and foremost, you have worth, you have value? Why do you feel like that allowed you to be so successful on your journey?
Well, I think one thing that's interesting is all of us are way harder on ourselves than we are on the people that we love, right? And so I think that
Correct.
the way that I kind of like to explain it to people is that myself and I think a lot of other people, we're caught up in this self-shame dieting cycle. So the top of the cycle is that you have a body, right? And that body, whatever it looks like, whatever size, because we can feel shame at all sorts of different sizes, right? Shame is not reserved for heavy people. People that are thin have body shame, people that are heavy have body shame, and everybody in between. So we have a body and we feel shame for the body. Because we're ashamed of our body, we sign up for the next diet or program in order to fix, quote unquote, fix or solve the problem. And then what happens eventually is whatever that diet or program is that we do, eventually we're going to make a mistake, right? We're not going to do it perfectly because we're human and we don't do anything perfectly. And because we started this from a place of shame, when we make a mistake, we use that as just another reason to shame ourselves. Like, oh, look at you. You started another program. You failed again. You slipped up again. This always happens. You're never successful. We just pile on that self shame. And then in my instance, the next piece is emotional buffering, where I would use food to buffer away from that discomfort of shame. And then I'd come back to the top of the cycle and have a body that I'd feel ashamed of, that I'd try to fix, that I'd make a mistake for, and then shame myself again, cope with food, and it continues. And so I think that what we really need to remember in this is um, that we're human, right? And I think that there's a balance. And I love that grace and grit because yes, it's going to take work. It's going to take consistency. It's going to take action. It's going to take showing up for yourself. But we have to remember that we are flawed humans. Nobody
Right.
is perfect. And by expecting ourselves to be perfect, we are setting ourselves up for failure, right? So how can we
Yes.
learn to fail, quote unquote, fail or make mistakes and use those opportunities? I mean, those failures and mistakes are so crucial. They are just as important on this journey as every win, every small win. Every single failure is an opportunity for growth and a lesson. And we have to learn how to stand back up on the other side of them and see that failure and those mistakes as a valuable component. Those are our best teachers along the way. And nobody is really going to be able to do anything, succeed at anything, whether it's weight loss or starting a business or being a mom, without having room for failure, because it's in that failure that we have true growth.
Right. And I think you highlight something, so prevalent, especially within diet culture, is that the assumption is that you will be perfect. So like when you look at meal plans or just diet plans, or, when we start eliminating all these different foods, unless you have an allergy or intolerance, it's that you either do it 100% or you completely failed. And so literally
Mhm.
by taking the first step, you failed. You are setting yourself up for failure because in no way can you be perfect because life happens. So if we
Yes.
start from the foundation of, I know that life's going to happen. I know that I'm going to go to a birthday party and want some cake and ice cream. I know that, sometimes I'm going to feel exhausted from a really heavy week. I know these things about my lifestyle. How can I
Mhm.
incorporate a health practice that still incorporates the reality of being human? It really shifts it, and it really allows us then to step into those practices where we can stay consistent with them, which is really ultimately what it comes down to, is how can we show up consistently for ourselves in order to make this really win. So yeah, so,
Absolutely.
such a mindset shift. So
Absolutely.
where
And
do you go ahead?
oh, I was just going to say that, I get it. I used to be one of those people that was very black and white about things. Oh gosh, I ate the Oreo. Well, I already failed. I might as well eat the whole sleeve of Oreos. And so I think so many of us allow one small moment, one small bad choice snowball into a bad day, a bad week, a bad month, a bad year. And we've got to really upset that cycle by learning how to make mistakes and not let them kind of snowball down this path of us, quote unquote, falling off the wagon. And the other thing that I think is so interesting is, you hear people say all the time about, I'm going to start over on Monday, right? And I tell my clients all the time, I'm like, we're not going to say we're going to start over. Because when we say we're going to start over, you're making the false assumption that the next time you do this, it's going to be perfect, right? So instead, we're going to say, yeah, maybe I didn't make the best choice today. Maybe I ate off of my plan, but I don't have to start over, right? I'm just continuing. I'm able to stand right back up after that small mistake and just keep going. You don't have to start over. This is all just experience as part of the journey.
Yeah, yeah. What was one of the failures that you experienced that you feel like taught you the most?
Ooh, that is a good one. Oh my gosh, there's so many, Jana. There's so many failures. Um, I think a lot of, and the thing is that over time, I feel like there's not necessarily like one big failure that stands out, like one instance. But I feel like, and the other thing I want to make clear is although I've lost, over 125 pounds, I still fail all the time, like all the time. And I think that we have to really see this health journey, this self-love journey. It's not a destination, right? It's a commitment to ourselves that we're going to do for the long haul. And so I I'm going to continue to fail. I'm going to continue to make mistakes. And I think one of the biggest things that I have learned along the way is really that forgiveness piece, is that learning how to practice awareness around the stories that I tell myself and the way that I speak to myself in general, but also about my mistakes, learning how to notice when that negative self-talk comes in and tell that inner monologue, like, okay, we actually don't speak to ourselves like that anymore, where I'm not going to give those thoughts any of my energy. And I'm going to tell myself where we're going to go from here. And I'm going to practice a little bit of that grace. I think the awareness piece is so huge. And that has been a game changer for me. Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you feel like maybe that negative self-talk or those old tapes that we play to ourselves and for ourselves, do you think that they ever go away?
No, I don't think so. I don't. Again, we're human and we have like over 60,000 thoughts a day, right? Odds are some of them are going to be crappy and not true. And it's not, I don't think that our goal should be, I'm going to get to a place where I no longer have any negative self-talk, because that's impossible. I think the goal instead is going to be like, I am going to practice awareness around my thoughts, and the ones that don't serve me, I'm not going to give my energy to. I can be compassionately curious about them and think like, I wonder why that's coming up for me, or I wonder why I'm thinking that way, and really practice more awareness and curiosity rather than latching onto it as truth. Because when I finally had the realization that just because I have a thought doesn't mean I have to believe it, like, it was revolutionary for me. And it seems so simple and like, well, duh. But I think so many of us think these thoughts and just latch onto them as fact. We get so caught up in our own stories. And so being able to almost sit and watch your brain a little bit and notice it from a place of compassion and curiosity is a huge skill that I think would serve so many of us if we really fostered that.
Yeah, because so often we get very, narrow and micro focused. And once we're really able to expand out what it looks like and kind of, I would say, like kind of hover above it and see like,
Mm-hmm.
what does this really mean? Why is this really showing up? Because so often we're getting constant environmental, stimuli every single day. Everything around
Mm-hmm.
us is giving us information, and something can really trigger us that makes us want to go back to utilizing food in potentially an unhealthy way. So you mentioned something earlier that I think is a really big kind of call out of using food to cope with emotions. And this is a big one
Mm-hmm.
for, I think, all of us.
Yeah.
How did or what did you do in order to start moving away from using food as that coping mechanism? What did you add things in? Did you take things out? Like, what else did you start utilizing to help really process those emotions for you?
Yeah, that is a great question. And I think that all of us have our, quote unquote drug of choice. And mine was definitely food. It could be worse, maybe, I don't know. But I think we all have our different things that we navigate to cope or buffer away from uncomfortable emotions. And I think that the solution to this is learning how to process emotions. I think recognizing too and being curious about the way that our primal brain, it's instinctive, its instinct is to run away from things that hurt it, right? And our brain doesn't know the difference between actual pain, physical pain of, oh my gosh, we're in danger, there's a saber-toothed tiger running after us, and the emotional pain of feeling, right? It thinks that both of them are scary and it wants to protect itself any way that it can. And so I think that if we can understand the way that our brains work for and against us, that kind of helps us, I think, find a little bit of compassion for our tendencies instead of thinking that we're broken. We're not broken, right? Everything that you do, every choice that you make, the way that you use food to buffer away from things doesn't mean you're broken. It means that you're human. And this is a natural response that your brain is doing to protect you. And so for me, one of the big game changers was, okay, if I'm going to stop using food to buffer away from my emotions, I'm going to have to learn how to process and feel my emotions instead of running away from them. I am an adult. I know that emotions cannot kill me. So how can I allow myself to feel them? And one of the greatest tools for me in my journey has been journaling. And it seems so simple, but it is such a powerful tool and a practice that I started from the very beginning of my health journey, October 1st, all the way until today. And it doesn't have to take a lot. Every morning I start the morning the same day. I write down 5 bits of gratitude and I kind of brain dump whatever's on my head or my heart. And it's a way for me to process what's in my brain on paper, to allow me to almost look at my thoughts in front of me and be able to really work through them instead of feeling like I need to shove them down. There's this visual that someone had shared with me once that I think is really powerful when it comes to emotions. And she said that your emotions are kind of like a beach ball. And what a lot of us think we can do is a beach ball is floating on top of the surface, right? But we want to shove them away. And so a lot of us think that we can push the beach ball below the surface, that we can just push these emotions down, that we don't have to deal with them. But eventually what happens is our grip slips on the beach ball. And the beach ball doesn't just slowly float back to the top, right? The beach ball usually bursts through the surface. And so in those moments where, I'm not a mom, but I just love this example of, let's say there's a mom and she's really stressed out about finances or work, or there's something that's going on in her life that she's not really processing or dealing with. And then her son or daughter walks in and accidentally drops their cereal bowl and the mom snaps and yells and lashes out at them. It's not because the mom is upset about the cereal. It's because there's probably another emotion going on that she isn't dealing with that kind of just burst through at that moment in time. And so I like thinking about that beach ball, because I think a lot of us think that we can just hide from our emotions. They're going to go away. But there's a lot of people that maybe have been pushing that beach ball down, that's still going to burst to the surface, even if it's 10 or 20 years later. And so how can we stop pushing down the beach ball and find ways to relieve that pressure as it happens? And for me, journaling has been a great resource for that.
Yeah, that's scary.
It is.
That is
It is scary.
scary step. Yeah. So, so tell me a little bit more about so you also have to create space and time for this. And that's one of, the biggest, obstacles I hear people, express is I just don't have the time for this. How did you start incorporating these little practices into your routine?
Yeah, great question. So it really had to start with me calling me out on my own excuses. And I know that this is cliche, everyone says it, but it's so true. It's not about having the time, it's about making the time. We all have the same 24 hours in the day. I know that we all have different responsibilities. Shout out to all the parents out there, especially having to deal with, quarantine and all the craziness that this year has thrown. But, we all, at the end of the day, we all have the same amount of time and we get to choose how we use it. And I used to tell myself I didn't have time too, but the truth was that I was spending a lot of absent-minded time scrolling through social media, watching things on Netflix. And I had to get really honest with myself about, okay, if my health is a priority, then my calendar should reflect that my health is a priority. And I say that too, with the caveat that I knew I needed to start with small steps. I think a lot of us, especially when we start a health journey, or if we have a lot of weight to lose, like I did, we have this desire to want to jump right into the deep end, right? We're like, I'm going to just go all in. I'm going to overhaul my lifestyle. I'm going to clean out all the junk food. I'm going to start going to the gym an hour a day. I'm going to do all these things so fast. And this last time I decided that I was going to dip my toe in and take tiny baby steps. And I'm so, so glad that I did, because what I didn't experience this time, which I experienced every other time before, was burnout. And so when I started, I said, okay, I can do small things. I'm going to start with 5 habits. And I started with Rachel Hollis's 5 to Thrive. I had just read her book. I had just started getting involved with more of this personal development stuff. And at the end of 2018, she had launched her last 90 days challenge. And for those that aren't familiar with it, the idea is basically, hey, what if instead of throwing away the last 3 months of the year to the holidays, once Halloween candy hits the shelves, a lot of us are like, yep, January 1st, we'll start our goals then. And so her idea was like, what if we ended so strong? Yeah. And so as part of her last 90 days challenge, she said, let's just do 5 simple habits for 90 days. Just to end the year strong and give ourselves this momentum for the next year. And so those 5 habits included: wake up 1 hour earlier for yourself, move your body for at least 30 minutes, write down 10 things you're grateful for every single day, give up 1 food that doesn't bless your body, and drink half your body weight in ounces of water. And I said, you know what? I can do 5 habits. I'm just going to try it out. I'm going to try doing 5 habits every single day for 3 months, for 90 days, and we'll just see what happens. And so I did wake up an hour earlier for myself. And so my 6 a.m. wake up call was 5 a.m. And I used the first half hour to work on my side business, which now I'm a full-time entrepreneur. So that was a good baby step for me too. And I used the other 30 minutes to do a free YouTube dance workout. I knew that my motivation was going to decrease severely if I had to leave my house and if I had to invest money into a gym. And at the time, going to the gym gave me anxiety anyways, working out in front of people. So I said, okay, I'm going to meet myself where I'm at. I can roll out of bed and get sweaty in the living room. Like I can do that. I don't have to pay anything. I just would put on YouTube. And so that's how I started. I just started by dancing for 30 minutes in my living room before I showered in the morning, and really focusing on those baby steps. And what was so crazy about it was my first 90 days of my health journey, 5 simple habits. That's it. I had already lost 25 pounds through the holidays, mind you. And this was the first time in my life that come January 1st, I didn't feel like I was making all these empty promises to myself because I had already built the foundation of these small habits, building some of that consistency. And now I knew, you know what? I actually enjoy doing these things. Like I think these 5 habits are now a part of me. And I don't have this big pressure of, oh, I have to do all these things. It was just more of like, I get to continue building this lifestyle for myself that I actually have grown to really like. And it didn't have to take a ton of time.
Yeah. Well, and you really start laying the foundation for really building that self-confidence muscle. Like I will say
Yeah.
so often, we have to build back your self-trust because right now you don't trust yourself because each time you say you're going to do something, you don't show up to it. So why would you trust you? So
Yes.
now
Oh my
if
gosh,
we can make
yes.
it a lot manageable and say, okay, I'm going to have these, whether it be one small promise or the 5 promises, and you start showing up to it, now we're building that self-trust and we're building that self-confidence, and you are unstoppable once we have that on the table. So
So
yeah,
true.
yeah, I love that.
It's like every day that you show up and keep a promise to yourself, it's like depositing another coin in your self-confidence bank.
Yes. Yeah. So what do you do now? Now that you are here and now that you've achieved this level of success, how do you continue to keep it going?
Yeah, so that is a great question. I think that what it comes down to is, I decided when I did this health journey again that I wanted to do it in a way that I was wanting to live my life. I wasn't going to do something that was going to be a temporary fix. I wasn't going to do the shakes unless I was going to drink the shakes for the rest of my life, right? I wasn't going to give up chocolate cake unless I was going to give up chocolate cake for the rest of my life. Spoiler alert, I'm not willing to do that. So,
Right.
what's really cool about it is that the entire way that I did it was just really creating the life that I want to live. And so now I still very much those habits. I don't have to actively think about them anymore. They're just a part of who I am. And so what I really think about now is, now that I guess you could say I'm in the maintenance part of my health journey, is I still want to show up every single day in a way that honors and nourishes my mind, my body, and my soul. I always want to, do something that makes me feel good physically. I always want to take time every single day for that mindfulness. That's what I use my gratitude for and my journal for. And I also want to do something every single day that sets my soul on fire. And thankfully, I've been able to find or create this career that really allows me to do that and use my talents and my gifts to serve this greater purpose, which I'm so, so grateful for. It's interesting. I used to really resent my 25-year battle with obesity. I thought it was the greatest curse of my life. And now on this side of things, it feels like the greatest blessing because had I not been given that struggle, one that I really would not want to wish on anybody else, had I not been given that struggle, had I not overcome that, I wouldn't have the opportunities that I do now, which I am so, so thankful for.
Yeah. What do you wish more people understood about a health journey or health as a whole?
Yeah, I think that I wish more people understood that it has less to do with what they think it does, which is usually food and exercise. And now those are absolutely important, absolutely important. But I think that I wish most people knew that the biggest and hardest part of this whole health journey, if you want to do this, what I would think is the right way or the way that's actually going to last, is that the journey needs to start with your mind. It's got to start with your relationship with yourself. And I think a lot of us tell ourselves, or we have this belief of, I'll love myself once I lose weight. But
Right.
that's not the case. I am able to confidently tell you that I love myself more now than ever before, but it's not because I lost 125 pounds. It's because, like you said earlier, it's because I started showing up for myself. Really, in my instance, I would argue that weight loss was a result of my self-love journey rather than the other way around. And I think a lot of people have that twisted.
Yeah. Ugh. So, so true because you can't, and so often, women will say, like, I've lost 20 pounds and I still feel like shit.
Yeah.
It's not the
Yeah.
weight that you're having to lose. It's really, like you
Yeah.
said, that self-love piece is really what's
Yep.
key for not only sustaining it, but also that confidence, that empowerment, and to be able to continue to do it for the rest of your life because it's not an ends to a mean, which I think
Right. And
is
I think too that a lot of people, they get fixated on this number. They're like, I want to lose 20 pounds. But I think I want people to get more curious about it. Okay, what do you think 20 pounds is going to do for you? How do you think that losing 20 pounds is going to make you feel? Because it's not a weight that we want, right? And full transparency too, when I started my health journey, I decided, okay, my goal weight is 150 pounds. It was, a nice clean number. It would put me in the normal part on my BMI chart. It was just like 150 pounds. That's the magic number. And what I realized along the way is that the number isn't what we want. It's not what's important. What we want is what we think that number will make us feel, right? What we want to feel is self-confidence. What we want to feel is energy. What we want to feel is self-love. Like we can go and do the things that we want to do. And full transparency, I have not hit my goal weight. But what I have hit is my goal feeling, which is what I think is something that we should really create that's more impactful than just a goal weight, right? It's not a number. Losing 20 pounds isn't your actual goal. Feeling confident and comfortable in your skin is what your goal is. And that doesn't necessarily just come
right.
from weight
Right.
loss.
Yeah. So aside from showing up, for yourself, who else supported you on this journey?
Great question. So, I feel very fortunate that I have had an amazing community of friends and family along the way. And now I have this even larger community that I never would have expected that are kind of cheering for me too. And so my fiance, Brent, we're getting married in May. And I used to use him as an excuse for why I didn't get started because I told myself that if he doesn't sign up and get gung ho about getting healthy, then I can't do it either. And I finally realized that nobody else has to believe in my dream in order for me to start taking action. And so I decided to do it regardless of if he joined me or not. And while Brent still to this day isn't 100% on board joining all the healthy habits, he has been the best cheerleader every single step of the way. And he's loved me through literally thick and thin. And he's been such a great supporter. But what's been really cool, even before I started working with my clients and had a ton of really awesome media exposure this year, was that I think a lot of us have, especially women, we feel like showing up and taking time for ourselves is selfish. And that's something that I really had to work through when I started my health journey too. But I would argue, and in my experience, showing up for yourself is the most selfless thing that you can do. Because when you start showing up for yourself, then you can show up as your best self for the people that you love. And there's a saying that when the tide rises, all the ships rise with it. And I saw that to be so true in my own life. After I started showing up for myself, it was giving people that I love permission to start showing up for themselves too. And so my best friend lost over 50 pounds. My brothers lost over 75 pounds. And my aunt and uncle are on this new fitness journey. And it's just been this really incredible ripple effect in my own close circles, as well as this huge, massive community now that I kind of created on Instagram. I guess to back it up, earlier this year, I had the opportunity to share my story in People Magazine and Good Morning America and Daily Mail and Access Hollywood, and just kind of like burst overnight. And I am so grateful. And it still shocks me every single time I get a DM in my Instagram from someone who says, "Hey, I watched a video that you shared in September and I've lost this much weight. And I just want you to know how much you've influenced my life." And it's just like, whoa, like the things that we share and the things that we do for ourselves can really impact other people in a positive, beautiful way, even when you don't even know.
Right. Yeah. I think that's so amazing because when you shine, it's a quote, you give other people permission to shine as well. And
Yes.
so really, if we step from it from that perspective, you are being selfish if you think that, feeling horrible is the way to go. And
Right.
you're showing other people how to also feel. So I love that you shared that piece, because yes, so often, and I think more so for women, but men also express it too, of I feel selfish if I take care of myself, because that's time away from my family or my work or
Mm-hmm.
whatever other commitments we feel drawn to go to. And also, I think it goes into that self-worth piece, is oftentimes we feel like we're third, fourth, fifth on the list, when
Right.
in actuality, we have to put ourselves first in order to take care of everything else in a way that is at our highest potential.
Yeah, absolutely. You can't pour from an empty cup.
Exactly. So, okay, so that goes into my next question here. How do you fill up your cup?
Ooh, that's a good question. Okay, ways that I fill up my cup. Number one, I mean, the best way to fill up your cup is to take care of yourself first. And so the way that I do that, I guess, like physically, I follow a lot of the same morning routines now that I had established when I first started my health journey. So every morning, I make my cup of coffee, I grab my water, feed my porch cats. There's like 6 of them. I'm totally that crazy cat lady, confession. Um,
Love it.
and then
Love
I
it.
sit down every morning with my journal and my coffee and a couple of kittens on my lap. And it's my way to kind of like take just a quiet moment for myself before the busyness of the day begins. It's a way for me to process my emotions, to practice some gratitude, and just like fill up my cup with kitty snuggles. Like, what better way to start the day, right? Like with some nice kitty snuggles. So that's important to me. I also make time every day to move my body for 30 minutes, even if it's just a walk. Like today, I just took a nice walk with my cousin. That was a way for me to fill up my cup. I'm definitely an extrovert, so I get energy from spending time with people. So putting times and dates on the calendar with people that I love is another way to fill up my cup, to make sure that yes, work is important, but relationships are important. The people that you love are important. So making sure that I take time to do that. Um, there's lots of ways that I fill up my cup. I'm super selfish and I take care of myself all the time now. But
Love
also,
it.
I think another way that I fill up my cup is by taking daily actions that are in pursuit of my dreams. So another part of my journaling practice, I write down my gratitude every day. I do my brain dump of whatever's on my head or heart. And then I also write down 6 of my big dreams that I have for my life. And I write them down as if they already happened. It's like a way to trick your brain into believing something before it's even come to fruition. And by doing that every single day, I'm reminding myself every single morning, like, this is the future that we're reaching towards. This is the person that we are striving to become. It brings it like front of mind. And then I make sure that I do one small thing every single day that is getting me closer to that, because that's another way that I'm kind of depositing money into my self-confidence bank. Like, I've showed myself that I believe in my dreams, that even if they seem big and crazy and scary and impossible, like, I used to think that losing 100 pounds was impossible. That's something that I wrote down every single day for almost a year, until eventually I had to cross it off the list. And I proved to myself that I can do hard things. I can do quote unquote impossible things. I can blow my own mind. Like, if I could lose 100 pounds in a year, I could do anything. And
Right.
so doing something in pursuit of those dreams is also a way that I fill up my cup too.
Well, I absolutely love that you are full of yourself. And this is one thing. This is one thing that I am on a mission to share with women, is that it's not being selfish, it's being self-full. And when you are
Yeah,
full of yourself, you get to pour over whatever you want to pour over. And it
I
just has
love
a
that.
ripple effect. So I love, love, love that you are full of yourself, because you are impacting so many people and you are changing so many lives. And that is the goal. So I am just so honored that you are willing to share with us from a cup that is full. So that's just so cool. So, okay, last 2 questions. What do you want to be known for? What do you want your legacy to be?
Ooh, that's a good one. I have a lot of things I want to be known for. I This is going to sound really cheesy, but I'm a cheesy person and I will own that. So, I think that, I guess, as an umbrella, like a very generic thing, is that I want to be known as someone who left the world brighter for having lived in it. And I think that I'm making it general because there's a lot of different ways that I want to continue doing that. But I think too, I want to be known for, I guess, teaching people how to find the same mental freedom that I found in my journey, by really teaching them mostly the mindset tools that I've learned along the way. I want to teach people how to feel their emotions, how to pursue their dreams, how to show up for themselves. And I just want to teach people, I guess, how to be full of themselves. That's what I want.
Yay. Awesome. Okay. So I always love, I love supporting people. I love for people to feel really good. And I think one of the parts, one of the parts of the equation is for actually rewarding ourselves for a job well done and stepping into saying, I am proud of myself for accomplishing this, fill in the blank. So what are you proud of yourself for?
I am really proud of myself for being scared and showing up anyways. I think that fear is something that stops so many of us in our tracks over small things and large things. And I think that it stops a lot of us from living into who we were meant to be, because we're afraid of failure, we're afraid of judgment, we're afraid of not, measuring up. And I think learning how to be afraid, how to be willing to fail, but fail forward, has been the greatest blessing of my entire life. It's been a huge game changer for me in my health journey. It's been a huge game changer for me in my entrepreneur journey. And it's something that I plan to continue doing, is just doing things that scare the crap out of me, because I know that that's where true growth and impact is really made. So I'm super proud of myself for that.
Love it. Love it. And we are so thankful that you are willing to take on that journey and step into that courage, because you really are impacting so many people. I mean, just in our conversation this evening, I got goosebumps so many times. And you were certainly a light for me. Like I was thinking, like, as you were talking, of like, wow, that's great. So you impacted my life. And as we continue to share this, I know you will impact so many others. So thank you so much for being willing to share your story, and also to continue to share your story with us. So it was absolutely awesome to have you.
Well, thank you so much, Jana. It's been a true honor. I appreciate the opportunity.